What's up, guys? I'm going to be making picks for UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Dillashaw. This is the first card of 2019, and let's go ahead and get it started. So, first fight of the night, we have Greg Hardy versus Alan Crowder. This is a setup fight to me. Greg Hardy is supposed to win this fight. Alan Crowder, he's not terrible. He's pretty bad for a UFC fighter, though. I thought he was cut, to be honest. I don't know exactly how he got back in the UFC. Got completely dominated by Justin Willis, who's not a bad fighter, but you shouldn't be getting outclassed like that. Greg Hardy is just a freak athlete. I mean, I think any NFL player, especially a starting, a defensive lineman, like, there's not really better athletes out there. The guy's huge. He's weighing in at 265 every time, probably cuts, I'm going to guess, at least 10 pounds. Great big dude, 80-inch reach. Really good boxing for where he's at right now. Obviously, he's going to continue to improve, but he's just ferocious. He just comes after you, smashes you, manhandles you, and I don't see this fight being any different, to be perfectly honest. Alan Crowder, even if he does have better stand-up, I don't think it's going to matter. I think maybe he tries to hit him, hits him once or twice, doesn't matter. Greg Hardy bull rushes him, and he's not trying to take you down. He's simply trying to smash your face. And I think he's going to do that. So first round knockout is what I'm going with here. So Greg Hardy's my pick. Next up, we had Randy Brown versus Chance Rencounter. Randy Brown's no longer able to compete for this one. Injury, had to pull out for whatever reason. The replacement was Dwight Grant, who also had to pull out due to some eye problem. So now we don't really know what's going to happen. There's rumors of Kyle Stewart stepping in. Don't know for sure, so I'm just going to skip this one for now. If the fight does happen, I'll put my pick in the description box down below. For now, we're just going to skip it, though. So moving on, Belal Muhammed versus Jeff Neal. Belal Muhammed, really tough guy. He's gone through multiple training camps during Ramadan, so no food or water all day. He's going through training camp, so that says something to me at least. So really tough guy. He's very well rounded in literally everywhere. Really good wrestler, really good wrestling defense, good in the clinch, good on the ground, and I'd honestly say he's best in striking. He's got really good boxing. He's got great leg kicks. His other kicks aren't bad. His high kicks are pretty good. Doesn't seem to be able to time them properly, but they look really good. So if he can land one of those, it's another great shot that's in his arsenal. Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal is really just a freak athlete to me. Jeff Neal is extremely fast. Belal Muhammad's fast, but Jeff Neal is significantly faster. I guess we'll find out, but I think he's significantly faster. And the biggest difference in this matchup is going to be the power. Jeff Neal hits way, way harder. We've seen Belal Muhammad finish. We've seen him knocked out by Vicente Luque in the past. So I could see that happening for sure. I could see a KO here. Jeff Neal, though, primarily a boxer. He's not as well-rounded as Muhammad. So if Muhammad's able to include some of those takedowns, get in the clinch, just kind of mix it up a little bit, I could see him kind of just not outwork, but put stuff together and possibly win. My pick here, however, is going to be Jeff Neal. I think just too much power and too fast. Even though he's literally just putting together ones and twos for the most part, jab straight, sometimes just straight to the straight. But yeah, I got to go with Jeff Neal. I think he got the finish here. If he gets on his back, this could be a problem, but I can go with Jeff Neal here. Next up, we have Dennis Bermudez versus Tay Edwards. I actually have a bet on Edwards in this fight. I got him at plus money at 105, plus 105. So I'm picking him to win. If you can still get him at underdog odds, for sure pick him. That's what I would do. That's what I did. He's way bigger than Dennis Bermudez. At first, I thought this fight was at 145. Learned it's not. Learned it's Dennis Bermudez going up in weight. And I think that's a big mistake, especially against a guy like Edwards. Edwards has a big reach advantage, a 6-inch reach advantage. He's 2 inches taller. Speed should be pretty similar. Bermudez is pretty fast. Bermudez is more experienced, so I could see that coming into play. But I think Edwards, he's going to have a little bit of an advantage on the feet simply because of that insane reach advantage. Keeping it at distance, I think he's going to be a stronger guy. And I don't see Bermudez being able to take him down. I think he would have an advantage on the ground if he's able to take him down, but I don't see it happening. Edwards is a wrestler, so I think it's going to stay on the feet. Might be a close fight, but I got Edwards for the win here. Next up, we have, well, it says we have John Lineker versus Cory Sandhagen on the UFC website. Obviously, that's not the case either anymore. So, Cory Sandhagen is fighting, I think the guy's name's Mederios something or other. The other guy's undefeated. He's pretty good, but I think Cory Sandhagen is just a little bit too experienced for him and way too tough. I mean, if you guys watched the Yuri Alcantara fight, Cory was in some terrible positions. He was in an armbar where it literally looked like he dislocated his elbow, and I think he did. He said it popped in the post-fight interview. So basically breaks his arm, doesn't give a shit, works through it, beats the living shit out of Yuri Alcantara. That was a late stoppage in my opinion. They could have stopped that sooner. But yeah, Cory Sandhagen beat the crap out of him. And I don't see this being that much different. Could be a close fight, but I think you got to go with Cory Sandhagen. The odds for this one might be a little bit off. I've seen Sandhagen at minus 475. I think that's a little bit much. The other guy is skilled, but I'm going with Sandhagen here. I'm a bit of a fan of him. I just see him winning. Next up, we have Alonzo Menifield versus Vinicius, and his last name changes on every page you go to. Here it says Castro. It said something with an M before, so we'll call him Vinicius. So, Alonzo Menifield, undefeated. Don't exactly have I don't know how the hell the guy makes weight. He usually weighs in at 206. I believe he used to be a running back in football. And you can tell just by how he's built. The guy's huge, extremely coordinated, huge power, very, very fast as well. Just an extremely athletic guy. Vinicius, tricky dude, very good on the ground. I don't see him being able to get it to the ground though. And I see Menifield just kind of teeing him up on the feet and eventually knocking him out. So I'm going with Alonzo Menifield, probably by knockout, but 100% he's going to win, in my opinion. Next up, we have Joanne Calderwood versus Ariane Lipski. Lipski leaves a lot of openings. She's ferocious, but her head's always on the center line. It's there to be hit. But in women's MMA, and I'm not trying to be sexist here at all, I think there's just less female fighters, so there's a bigger separation between those that are extremely elite and those that aren't. So you look at, I don't know, the upper echelon being Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, that class, Joanna, Cyborg, that kind of thing. They're able to take advantage of little things like that. Having your head on the center line, just swinging away, just hooks, and your head's still here to be hit. So if you're fighting one of those people that I just mentioned, that's a huge problem, and I think they can capitalize on that, game plan for that, and beat you as a result of that. Joanne Calderwood, she's good, but I don't see her as that class, that elite class that can take advantage of all these small problems in your game. I think Lipski might be able to just run through her. Calderwood's last fight, she submitted a girl, I forget her name at the moment, the Brazilian chick, and was losing, I think, every second of the fight. She got taken down, a little bit of ground and pound, and then eventually, right at the end of the round, Calderwood sunk in a triangle and beat her. So, clutch, for sure, but I see Lipski just kind of living up to her nickname, the Queen of Violence, making this violent, and then Calderwood kind of wilting under the shots to the face. So I'm going with Ariane Lipski in that one. Next up, we have Alexander Hernandez versus Donald Cerrone. This is Cerrone's move down to 155, his former home, somewhere it seems like he's always wanted to go back to, but couldn't really figure out how to do the weight cut. Now they have the PI Institute, the Performance Institute in Vegas, which he's taken full advantage of, and he's now confident that he can make the weight cut without any issues. So I don't see that being a problem. I think he'll make weight just fine. However, I think Alex Hernandez is an absolute monster. The guy's got great striking. He's got good takedowns. But what makes him special is just his relentlessness. He'll come at you and just won't stop. If you watched him fight OAM, he literally won that fight, not by outstriking him or being more technical, but simply outworking him. The guy had him in the clinch basically the entire fight, smashed up against the cage, and OAM couldn't do anything. A guy who's known for his judo, for being really good at usually getting people off of him, couldn't do it. Hernandez, yeah, I think he pressures guys all the time. I think Cerrone has had trouble with that in the past, and I think that's going to be a big issue here. So I'm going with Hernandez. Next up, again, the UFC website has this one wrong. I mean, this whole event's been a bit of a gong show with fighter changes. So right now, it's saying Glover Teixeira versus Jan Kutalabov, but Jan's out, and who's in? Oh, Karl Roberson. This is an interesting one because Glover's way more skilled than Roberson, in my opinion. He's way more well-rounded. He's bigger, but he's way older, and he's way slower. So in a regular fight, that's going to be super problematic. Can Glover kind of get by that? I don't think so. I think Roberson's going to piece him up on the feet. Glover's going to have to shoot for a takedown or clinch up or something because he's going to get destroyed on the feet. If he gets him down, I think that's basically what decides this fight, to be honest. If Glover can get the takedown and can keep him down, it's over. He's way better on the ground, extremely good jiu-jitsu, pretty relentless on the ground, and yeah, I see him submitting him if he can get it into the ground. Cesar Ferreira did that to Roberson. He submitted him on the ground, and I see Glover basically being a bigger version of Ferreira. However, I think Roberson has learned from his mistakes, and I see him winning. I see him knocking Glover out. Glover's become a little bit chinny over the years, and yeah, just kind of with a lot of these fights, he's more athletic, and I see that being the difference maker. So even though Teixeira is more skilled, I'm going with Roberson by knockout in this one. Next up, we have Paige VanZant versus Rachel Ostovich. The only reason this fight's on the main card, obviously, is because of how they look. Like, realistically, it's pretty obvious, and I'm not complaining. I mean, even look at their records, right? Like, Rachel Ostovich is 4-4, and who she fought? She's fought nobody. No real names, nobody who's that good. Paige VanZant, higher level competition. She's 7-4, better record, has a 3-inch reach advantage, and I just kind of see being better basically everywhere. Ostovich, primary weapon is striking and ground game. I don't see her being able to take Paige down, and I don't even think she's better on the ground. Paige is really good with her kicks. In her last fight against Calderwood, is that her name? Hold on. No, Jessica Rose Clark, that's who it was. In her last fight against Jessica Rose Clark, she broke her arm, I don't know if it was the first or the second round, and then basically fought the entire last round with just kicks, and arguably, I don't know if she won that round, but she stayed competitive without using her hands at all. So that says something to me. Toughness and just will to win. So I got Paige here. I think she's better pretty much everywhere except maybe boxing, which isn't going to matter because you have a freaking 62-inch reach. Like, you're not going to touch her. So yeah, I mean, I could see it being kind of close, but I think Paige is just a little bit better everywhere. Might be a little bit rusty, hasn't fought in a while, but I got VanZant for the win here. Next up, we have Joseph Benavidez versus Dustin Ortiz. Their first fight wasn't even close. Benavidez completely outclassed him. This time around, I think it will be closer, but I still got Benavidez. I think the biggest difference here is speed. Ortiz, he's got some good striking, some good footwork, switches stances a lot, and catches people off guard, as we saw. Let me check which fight it was. He caught somebody with a head kick. Matthias Nicolau. So yeah, so he's kind of like lulls you to sleep. He's sort of like Yoel Romero in that way, like with Rockhold and with others, where it lulls you to sleep and then bang, out of nowhere, you're done. So Yeah, so he's good with that. He has a few knockouts now. But again, I think the difference here is speed. Benavidez, even at 34, is just so fast. Technique might not be quite as good as Ortiz, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think he's just too fast. Ortiz can't take him down. That's one thing he likes to do. Benavidez has extremely good takedown defense. And yeah, I think quickness is going to be the difference in this one. Could be wrong, but that's how I see it. That's what I see when I look at any of their fights. Is just the speed of Benavidez is something else. So I'm going with Benavidez in that one. All right, next up we have Gregor Gillespie versus Yancy Mederios. This is a good fight. However, I think Gregor Gillespie is just going to outwork Yancy here. Yancy's dropping back down to 155. Don't think that's going to be a major problem, but Gregor barely cuts any weight, so he's not going to have any chin issues, I don't think. He's not going to have any endurance issues for sure. The guy works harder than anybody I know. Improves a great deal between fights, and is an exceptional wrestler. So I kind of see him just outworking Yancy. Yancy's kickboxing might be somewhat problematic in the beginning, but that pace that Gregor puts on you is just going to be too much for him. Round 1 might be close. Round 2, not so much. And round 3, Yancy's just going to be drowning. So I got Gregor for the win there. Main event of the evening, we have Henry Cejudo versus TJ Dillashaw. This is a great fight, to be honest. People are saying it's not a super fight for whatever reason because Henry didn't really beat DJ or whatever your argument is. I think it is. I think it's a great fight. Start with TJ Dillashaw. TJ's a great striker. Got the Dwayne Bang Ludwig style. Lots of footwork. You can argue that it's similar to Dominic Cruz, and there's lots of wasted movement, but it seems to be effective. He has his hands up by his face all the time, doing all kinds of weird stuff, but it works. Wrestling's very good. You asked Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen talks about how TJ is the best MMA wrestler, whereas Cejudo might be the best traditional wrestler in the UFC. I think that's complete garbage. I think Cejudo is a much better MMA wrestler as well than TJ Dillashaw is. We're probably going to see. I think Cejudo is going to need takedowns to win this fight, and if he can't get them, that's going to be a problem. So we'll see if Sonnen's right there. Cejudo is improving at quite a quick rate, and kind of sporadically. We see things like against Wilson Hayes, where he just out of nowhere has this karate stance. Everybody's like, what the hell are you doing? And then knocks him out and looks really, really good the whole time. That obviously makes you kind of vulnerable to leg kicks, which TJ is quite good at. We saw against Demetrius Johnson how he hit the nerve, similar to what happened to Michael Chandler with the low calf kick. So that's going to be there for TJ. Not that it's easy to make that happen, but to mess up Henry's leg for sure. And if Henry changes that style, I think that's going to be problematic for him. I don't think he should be changing up stuff at this stage. Mind you, as I said, he improves sporadically, so you never know what's in his back pocket. I'm kind of rambling at this point, and the reason why is because I'm having a really hard time picking who's going to win this. I've been going back and forth and back and forth. And for every reason that I think of one guy winning, I can find an equally good reason as to why the other guy is going to win. So, for example, people are talking about the weight cut, right? Oh, well, TJ can't make weight. I actually think that Cejudo is going to have to cut more weight than TJ. Let me explain why. So, TJ's nutritionist and trainer is a guy by the name of Sam Calavita. Brief background, Sam Calavita worked for NASA. He decided that was too far away from home. He wanted to spend more time with his wife and kids, moved home to California, and became a calculus teacher. He didn't only become a calculus teacher, he won an award for being the best calculus teacher in North America. So he's extremely good at basically everything he puts his mind to. He later opened up the training lab where TJ trains out of, where guys like Cub Swanson, Jake Ellenberger, Aaron Pico train out of. And what makes Sam Calavita's program so special is, number one, I would say, is the diet. So he has them on a very strict diet. He does all these crazy things, like he'll take hair samples. He has these guys wear heart rate monitors almost all the time. He's just monitoring all these little things in an effort to get an edge. So if a guy has slightly lower sodium, he elevates it. If he has too much magnesium, then he lowers it. And like just does all these little things to make their diet perfect, basically. It does the same thing with the heart monitors that I was just mentioning. If a guy isn't responding the way that he wants him to, then he'll just let them take maybe the morning practice off or just the day off to kind of recuperate and then back at it the next day. So everything is very scientific. The diet is for all of his athletes, is very close to a ketogenic diet, which means you take out the carbs and that makes you lose a bunch of water weight, and that also explains why TJ looks the way he looks. So all these steroid accusations, at least from some of my friends, are saying that, oh, well, look at the guy. Like, he's shredded now. He's the same size. And I know from experience of actually doing a keto diet myself that that's just what happens. You lose a bunch of water weight. You can see a whole bunch more muscles. You're way more shredded, and you're a little bit lighter. That's just how it works. Other things that happen with this diet are crazy mental clarity. I compared it to the movie Limitless in the past for you guys who have seen that movie. Not that extreme, but you get the idea. You can just think really clearly. There's nothing holding you back from just thinking exactly the way you want to. And also it completely removes anxiety, at least it did for me. And I think you could say the same for TJ. If you look at his first couple fights in the UFC, he was very on edge, pacing back and forth, looked pretty angry, just trying to intimidate the opponent potentially. But he was nervous, as most fighters are. But you can see now he's not nervous at all. And I think the reason for that is this diet that Sam Calavita has him on. The one downside of that is explosive movement. You're not as fast, you're not as explosive on that diet, at least for me. He might have found a way around that. I mean, the guy's a genius, but at least like against guys like Cody Garbrandt, like TJ's way slower, but he's able to adapt in situations because of that mental clarity. You saw in the second Cody Garbrandt fight, he was hurt. Cody was swinging at him, and he just focused, saw the opening, ducked under, hook, or overhand, or whatever it was. 3 times in a row because it kept working, and that's how he finished him. So he's just on point. He's thinking clearly. I think that gives him a big edge. But with regards to the weight cut, what that's going to do is he's already lost all this water weight. That's why he looks the way he looks. And as a result, if any of you guys have seen pictures of him on Instagram, he's looking gaunt. He's looking like terrible. All these people don't think he's going to make weight. It's just because of the diet. And I, for one, trust Sam Calavita, how he's doing this. And what that means basically is TJ has to get extremely close to 125 earlier because he doesn't have as much water weight to lose. So he can't cut, like, I'm assuming Cejudo's going to have to cut close to 20 pounds. The guy's looking really, really big, which he can do because he has so much water in his muscles and just on his body right now, whereas TJ doesn't. So I don't think there's going to be a problem with TJ making weight. I think Henry is more likely to miss weight, actually. I think that Henry is going to be significantly bigger in the octagon. I'd be extremely surprised if Dillashaw weighed more in the cage, which probably surprised a lot of people with everybody thinking TJ's so big, and I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying that Cejudo's going to have to cut a bunch of weight, and then it'll be easier to put all that weight back on. But yeah, there's so many arguments for both guys. I don't think that the weight cut's going to affect TJ as much as many others do. I think some people are underrating Henry Cejudo, and it's just a tough one to call. You look at wrestling, as we referred to before, I think Cejudo has the advantage. You look at striking, I think TJ has the advantage. Clinch, hard to say. I think Cejudo's going to be stronger in there, so kind of outmuscle him. But TJ might have the better technique in the clinch. So it's a really hard one to call. I don't think the weight cut is going to hamper Dillashaw that much, but I gotta go with Cejudo here. Might just be a personal bias, but it's a 50-50 fight. The guy's the underdog. I might as well pick the underdog, and I like him more. So I'm going with Henry Cejudo. Last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you guys what my bets are for this card, because I missed a whole bunch as I was going through this. So let me see here. So I have a bet on Tay Edwards, plus 105. I've actually parlayed that, though. So I have 3 units on Tay Edwards and John Jones at plus 131. I have 5 units on Ariane Lipski at minus 193. I have 2 units on Alexander Hernandez at minus 155. And my last play of the night is I have 3 units on Paige VanZant in a parlay with Max Griffin and Israel Adesanya, who both aren't on this card, and that one's at plus 208. My favorite underdog play, if you can still get Tay Edwards at plus money, that's it. That's definitely my my favorite underdog play. If not, I think Karl Roberson is a close second. I think he's just too fast, too athletic for Teixeira, but again, the guy's in trouble if it goes to the ground. Think that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next week.